Okay.
Okie dokie.
Okie dokie.
All right, so I'm going to hit the live button here.
Okay.
And
I have my son here. He's on my board of directors. Should he join us?
no,
Okay.
that's enough people already.
Just thought I'd ask.
It gets congested then. Okay. It's time for Worthy Cause Wednesday. It's me, Jesse T, Mr. Sold from Your Home Sold, guaranteed to get the price you want, or we'll pay the difference. If you want to find out more information about that, the show is brought to you by Your Home Sold Guaranteed at 1-844-332-6305, ID number 1045. 1-844-332-6305, ID 1045. Find out all the information about our great guarantees here at Your Home Sold Guaranteed, where we promise to get the price you want, but we'll pay the difference. It's time for Worthy Cause Wednesday, and you know what that's all about. We fight human trafficking. The Coalition Against Human Trafficking, CAHT. You can check us out on our Facebook page, and you can also check us out by Googling the Coalition Against Human Trafficking. It'll pop right up there and tell you where to go and participate and volunteer. And let's get involved and put some bad guys behind jail, because these are varmints of the world, and they prey on our children, and they prey on men and women who are vulnerable at that time in their lives. Today, we got a couple special guests online here. We got the founder and president of Project Tapestry in Los Angeles. And we also have Lisa coming up here, and we'll get to Lisa in a second. She's the head of an organization here in Los Angeles that helps people that unfortunately get caught up in the human trafficking issue and epidemic today. Lisa, what's your last name?
Drennan,
Okay, and tell me just the name of your organization real quick, please.
Little Sisters Foundation Incorporated.
Okay, we'll find out more about that in a second. Right now on the screen, the Coalition Against Human Trafficking Caught is looking for Michael James Pratt. He's been out there for about a year running from the FBI, and Michael James Pratt is a sex offender who here in Southern California has violated many young boys and girls, and he hasn't been caught yet. And he has traveled through the southwestern region of the United States, and the FBI is looking for Michael James Pratt. If you know or can find him, or you can see him, we'll send you a special flyer about that. This is just the top of it. Contact your local FBI, or you can give us a call right here at 818-800-1343, direct, or 800-684-8699. We need to put bad guys behind bars, and we need to help those children, because they are victims. They aren't the problem. They're victims. And of course, men and women too are abducted and kidnapped and basically enslaved and incarcerated. And most of them die pretty much thereafter, not too long, when this happens. And it's just an evil thing that's spreading very quickly because of the wondrous powers of the internet. Amazing. So let's jump right into the show right now, and let's talk a little bit to Alatino and Alatino Brown, the founder and the president of Project Tapestry. Alatino, what's happening, brother?
Well, today is Worthy Cause Wednesday, and the worthy cause is save women and children at all costs. That's what men are supposed to do, protect and save. And Jesse's Coalition Against Human Trafficking is just awesome. I've known Jesse for years. We've worked together. We've had fun. We've had good times, bad times, and now we're suffering the horrors of human trafficking, organ harvesting, and of course, domestic violence. And I was trying to get Harvey on the phone to tell us about what's going on in Texas with the school shooting, the 2 teachers being killed and 19 students. That is just sad, all under the age of 12.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we definitely are growing up here in this generation in a much more violent and volatile foundation of Americans. These last 2 to 3 generations, the babies being born right now, are going to grow up in a vastly different world, and the millennials and Gen Xers are experiencing a different world. But the interesting thing here is that many of the human traffickers, obviously, we have a big problem at the southern border because so many children have just plain simply disappeared off the face of the planet Earth with what has been going on, the 200,000 to 300,000 people coming across the border illegally and children being just abducted and kidnapped and used for a lot of things, not just sexual trafficking, but labor trafficking, organ trafficking, and so many other types of trafficking and slavery. They don't even know really the exact number. It's just a guesstimate on the FBI's part. But nevertheless, we do have epidemic levels happening here, and our society is growing up in a much more volatile time than we ever have before, certainly in my lifetime. And also, the interesting thing here, as I mentioned, was that about 35 to 40% of the people that get involved in human traffickers, most people think it's a greasy old guy that's there, sitting in the corner, hey, little girl. Right? It's not necessarily so. No, this is an organization of criminal activity that's backed by corporate style organization, and especially the cartels and the organized groups like that. And in fact, many of the traffickers themselves, about 35 to 40%, according to the FBI, are females, are women between the ages of 25 and 55 years old. And it makes perfectly good sense and logical, because if they're cruising on the internet and they see a lady, well, young people don't know the difference, especially children don't know the difference. And they see a woman in a much more a different light than they do men. So that's something that's interesting. And that's something I read a couple of weeks ago, which was very surprising to me. I never quite thought about it that way. So we have Lisa here on the line, and Little Sisters. Tell me a little bit about what you do, Lisa.
Well, since founded about 35 years ago, Little Sisters Foundation has rescued, I believe, 15,000 young girls and children, actually, from being sold into sex slavery in the country of Nepal. They educated them. They actually had to purchase those children from the families that were selling them to the traffickers in order to save their lives. They would house them and educate them and give them as much of a life worth living as possible. A lot of them didn't survive long, apparently, because of sexually transmitted disease and things of that nature, and the trauma that is brought about from trafficking. They branched out here to the United States and elected me the chairwoman in January of 2021. And since then, I have been educating myself in human rights and recovery. I've gotten my human rights certification and just last month, and I also have my certified recovery mentor, my peer support specialist in adult addictions. I'm a survivor of trafficking, domestic violence, and child predators here in Portland, Oregon. So I'm very passionate about my work. I believe this is why I survived. I mean, if there was a purpose for my life, it would be to help people get out and find a way to have a better life and to heal from the trauma.
Well, the FBI says that less than 2% of people that are trafficked ever get found again. And within 7 years, a very large percentage of them overwhelmingly end up dying due to some of the reasons that you had said, but also murder and abuse and self-inflicted suicide. So this is not only a problem about the actual act of the kidnapping and abducting and stealing of our most prized possessions in life, but it also becomes a psychological and personal thing that these young people, as you know better than anybody, that gets imposed upon them through intimidation and drugs and alcohol and whatever and whatnot. So can you tell me a little bit about your story if you want to? If you don't, that would be great to hear just a
No, that's
little bit
fine.
about your story, and what happened to you and how you got rescued.
I didn't actually technically get rescued. So my story begins when I was a child. I grew up in a neighborhood here in Portland, Oregon that was riddled with pedophiles. My best friend's sister was pregnant by her father when I was in second grade. I can literally remember 4 by name off the top of my head that knew me very well, including my neighbor, the neighbor boys, which were older than I was. I mean, I was in grade school and they were in high school. I think middle school was about the youngest in the neighborhood that I was aware of. So that altered my entire perception of my self-worth, things of that nature. I got into a lot of trouble. I got into drugs very early. I was a teenage parent at 15, dropped out of school to get a job, and kind of realized right away that $5 an hour was not going to pay the bills and the babysitter at the same time. So I turned to other forms of finance, which would be human trafficking. And I did a lot of other things. I mean, I was a dancer. I did escort services. I did whatever. I even worked at the Mustang Ranch for a few years in my mid-20s. But needless to say, I actually did have a pimp at one point for about 2 years, maybe 3. So I did work the circuit. I worked about 10 different states here in the United States. And I saw a lot of women being abducted. San Francisco, they found quite a few girls that I was regularly working nearby and knew about 10 of them in the back of somebody's house up in the San Francisco hills. I have been abducted. I have been beaten into submission. I have been, I have been through all these things, not to mention the domestic violence that I had when I was at home in my personal relationships. I did not know what a healthy relationship looked like until I came to recovery and started doing my own healing process.
So it's safe to say that these early issues that were just thrust upon you in life at a young age set an agenda for your life for many years.
Absolutely.
That was not conducive to a healthy environment for you as a person, and sent you down a path that you probably would not have taken, and had a lot of personal destruction within you. And that's what happens in general to a lot of young people that get abducted like this. If they're ever rescued, or they ever get away from these issues, they're very fortunate, like you, in that respect. But this is something that's pretty apparent within that, and how it can destroy the rest of your life, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And, I also have to say that, I mean, I came from a 2-parent, middle class family. But I knew if I told my parents, my father would have probably gone to prison. I mean, I don't even know how I knew that, but I knew that I would not have a father anymore. So I never told him, because I was afraid I would lose him. And that weighed more to me as a child than what happened. I didn't even understand that's what it was until I got older. So,
this gives you a really great opportunity to be able to help those that have gone through or are going through what you've already been through. You have a relatability to their plight.
Absolutely.
What do you see in terms of some of the biggest couple of issues today that lead up to human trafficking of human beings. Is it the person's fault that gets trafficked? Is it the criminal activity? Is it the family? What are the things that we as parents and as people trying to fight this, things that we can look for?
Well, I've been paying a lot of attention. I have children, I have 5 children ranging from 21 to 39. And a lot of neighborhood kids kind of took me as like a stepmom or big sister type all through the lives of my children. And what I used to tell my teenage girls is the music videos aren't teaching you anything but how to be a hood rat, a hoochie, and a hoe. I mean, because that's typically what they're doing. What mainstream media does is teach our children how to lower their self-worth. It doesn't promote a lot of positive influence. I mean, like the women are half naked, the men are all talking about being a gangbanger or drug dealer and murdering each other and abuse and misuse of women, things of that nature. There's a lot of things. It really boils down to the lack of in my opinion, in the homes. There's been a breakdown of the family unit in America for many, many years. And that started the generation before mine, I'd say. So for the last 60 years or so, the family unit in America has been dissolving, and that has a huge impact.
Oh, absolutely agree with you on that. I absolutely agree with you on that. In fact, like Al Latino with Project Tapestry in Los Angeles, he's seen over the years with his other business working in the community that he lives in Los Angeles, he's seen these changes happen, which dynamically changes the outlook of the neighborhood, education, family structure, religious understanding, socialization, the rules and the laws, our country in terms of that. Valentina, would you say that part of what Lisa was saying has really changed where you do most of your nonprofit work?
Well, it's getting worse. It really is. And, with COVID the way it is, everybody being shut in, so to speak, I think it's wrapped up even in a higher gear because we don't have the contact. People look for contact, and that's what the trafficking does. It gives you direct contact to ease that depression or buildup of, anxiety, so to speak. So it can only increase. But I think education, not only in school, but in the neighborhoods and communities, stranger danger is played out. And I think there really needs to be a commercial made on the horrors, the real life horror stories that are today that exist. I mean, look at the people killed, look at the torture behind it. Like I said, Lisa was very good in explaining to me when we met how she was involved, how it really got to her. And you don't know it until you're there. But think about if it was your mother, your sister, your girlfriend, your wife, your grandkids. Okay. You don't know what's safe anymore today. And I think
Texas is a primary example of that. Yeah, we can send $50 million to the Ukraine, but we can send $50 billion to the Ukraine, but we can't spend $50 billion on the safety of our schools, let alone $50 billion on hunting down these absolutely evil varmints, these people that are just horrid people. We don't do anything in our society to do that. And that part is the problem, is that I remember when this stuff was out in the open on the street, when we got involved in Coalition Against Human Trafficking and fighting this stuff, we could fight the pimps and the traffickers, and we could actually, save the women and the men. Let's not forget about little boys. Let's not forget about men. Trafficking has no common denominator of sex. It's a human being. That's the only common denominator. So, we could see it, we could fight it, we could go after it. But when the internet took over, and COVID was a part of this lockdown that we were in, but when the internet took over, this stuff got off the street. And when the cartels and the organizations, the criminal organizations got a hold of this, they're very good. They're very good at enticing people, young people who have no understanding yet, and young adults who have no understanding yet, to come hang out, and then they get involved in this. So you're right in that respect. I mean, we should be spending as a government $50 billion on protecting the ones that we love the most, our children. But like Lisa says, society has changed so much. I'm a baby boomer, and I'm the end of the baby boom generation. And these next three generations, Xers, millennials, and the Gen Z generation, babies being born today, they're growing up in a society where this has become commonplace, like Lisa had mentioned. It's a common thing.
Well, the problem is that it's been swept under the rug and ignored, and pretend you don't see it or hear it for so many generations that it's become normal, just like racism and all the other things in our country that are just completely dysfunctional, in my opinion. And especially with this is that nobody, I mean, like, if you do see it, you either pretend you don't, or you get mad, you might call the police or something like that, but that doesn't spread awareness. That if we were able to spread awareness, if we were able to teach communities across the nation, all over the world actually, about what to look for and how to guard your children and keep them safe on the internet, I mean there's just so many things that we could do as a society to educate the people. But what they first have to do is stop pretending there's not a problem.
Yeah,
This
well,
happens
that's true.
this
It's always
happens in every single neighborhood across the United States.
the homeless
and all over the
epidemic.
world.
The homeless epidemic is just a blatant example of that across the country in all the regular urban cities. It's out of control, past the point of no return. And people say, well, if it's not on my wall, it's not on my corner, if I'm going to look the other way because I don't want to deal with it. We've become a very apathetic society in the last three generations. And talk about the international aspects to this. A gentleman just joined us, Will Sabo, and he's having a little bit of a connection problem because he's traveling. So he's popping in and out a little bit, but I'd like to bring Will on because Will is a guy that's out there and is part of an organization and an organization of other individuals that actually go out and face the demons face to face. Hey, Will, how you doing?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you just fine. Can you hear us?
Yes, sir. I hear you great.
So talk about a little
thanks.
bit about this international plight as well as a plight in America, and what you guys are about and what you're doing in terms of trying to help solve this problem.
Well, we've kind of tackled on a broad spectrum, everything from domestic violence to here in this country, and child and human trafficking in this country, to genital mutilation, child marriage in foreign countries. We have a chapter in Kenya. That's the main mission of that organization. And we support them and are trying to fundraise for them as well, because there's not a lot of grassroots support on that continent for that kind of movement, because it's such a cultural thing. And when my brother Vincent, the president of Kenyan chapter, came to me with the problem, I see things I like to take care of the problems here at home, but I feel like if we don't help everyone everywhere, You know, we're not fixing the problem. We're just fixing the isolated problem.
Now, does
Um,
your organization actually go in, scope out, do intelligence, and actually rescue people or put people
Yes.
behind prison
Yes.
with local police agencies?
Well, there hadn't been any prosecutions yet. What we've encountered, honestly, and I hate to admit it, but what we've encountered is a lot of railroading and cover up. Local law enforcement agencies don't want to admit that kind of problem goes on in their community, and they're not doing anything about it. We went into, I'm not going to say where, but it was in the Midwest. We went into a place, there were cells in the basement. There were 9 girls, and there was yeah, we go in. You kind of got to watch what I say.
Well, I agree with you, because when we were fighting the problem on 2 areas of the San Fernando Valley here in Los Angeles, what happened was we had to convince the LAPD that this was a problem, and this was not just a issue to not pay attention to. It took us almost 3 years for us, through political pressure, media pressure, citizen pressure, an overwhelming embarrassment pressure to LAPD, that we finally were able to organize the first ever Los Angeles Police Department Human Trafficking Task Force. But it
Very
took
nice.
us 2 to 3 years when we started that to get them to move on it, from the top of the local government to the bottom of the LAPD. And so you're absolutely right. It was like, oh, this isn't a problem. This is just, I've been here a long time, blah, 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 blah. But, that in fact is not the truth.
Well, it's an unpopular statement from what I've seen. I've been involved in some. I'll tell you right now. I'll go ahead and say it. Largest trafficker of children in this country, and it's government sponsored, is Child Protective Services, and it's not.
Yeah,
Every
well,
now and
why
then
should
they
they
do
why
good.
should they solve the problem? They're getting billions and billions of dollars,
Exactly.
taxpayer dollars, to be an entity. Oh, I don't
Exactly.
disagree with you on that.
And what I've found is when you try to confront an organization like that, they have county support.
Yeah.
Therefore, the cops are their enforcers. They're like it's like a mafia. They tell them what to do. The cops come in as the muscle. They extort, and they take the children. The parents have to prove their fitness. And 9 times out of 10, those kids make it into the foster system before their parents are able to complete their the plan, the plan that they make it very difficult to get your children back once they take them, and they get money for every kid, and when you think about it, you hear about it, I know people. One of my brothers in the foster system, and the trauma that he suffered in that system, repeated, because they don't stay in one foster home; they shuffle through the system, and the trauma that these kids go through, being taken from their parents.
Well, let me ask you
You don't
this, guys.
fix the family by breaking it up. You fix the family by giving them the means to repair what problems they have.
Well, that's a
And you
good
don't
bridge
think-
here. That's a good bridge that I want to make right now, and that is, the panel today has expertise in different areas of this epidemic problem in our country and globally, worldwide. And I'm just going to toss it out. Anybody can speak up if they want. I just try to keep it somewhat short. But what can we do? What can anybody do to solve this, because it just seems like no matter what you do, no matter how much money you throw at it, no matter how much man and woman power you throw at it, it just seems to continue to grow. I mean, are human beings so vile on this planet Earth that there's no good people left anymore? I mean, I just tossed that out there. What can we do?
Personally, I think there's a complacency in this country and in this world. It's once you're inside your four walls and your air conditioning's on and the lights work and you're home and you've got your neat little family and everybody's together. Well, you know, you kind of look at it through that lens where it's somebody else. It's not my problem, and that's the problem with people. If everyone would stop, what I encounter is people question my motives. Why do you care so much that you will put everything on the line and go out here and help people that you don't even know? And my answer to that is, well, I was a Marine when I was 17 years old. I put my life in America's hands at 17. And I took an oath to a constitution. I took an oath to my country and the citizenry of this country. And that oath doesn't go away. So even though I'm an old man now, if I don't do it and you question me, why my motive is because you won't help. I have to. And I don't mean you, I mean the general public.
So Lisa, from your point of view, after hearing Will, I mean, we talked about this briefly before Will came on, but I mean, what is there that the everyday person can do, not only just protecting their own children and loved ones, but protecting the children around them, making some effective changes? What's going to work?
Well, in order to heal society, you have to start with the family. You cannot have a society without family. If we start to heal the families, we can start to heal the communities. Once we start healing communities, we then start healing our society. We have to find ways to build a common ground for all peoples of our nation. I mean, we are a melting pot. All this racism and the white supremacy and the anti-indigenous and the anti-Asian and it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
All right, I'm out.
We all come from one human family. Once we can get past that,
isn't this a form
and work together?
Isn't this a form imposed upon the American middle class since the end of the Civil War to the point where it is now, where power and control over life and death by a handful of others becomes more important than anything else? And isn't this, nothing happens per chance in the world? That things like this don't happen just because they're a lark, and they happen for a specific reason.
It's a supply and demand.
How do you fight that? How do you fight? How does a parent fight that?
It's a supply and demand situation, just like any other commodity here in the United States. There is a high demand, so there must be a supply.
Amen.
It's been going on since the dawn of creation of the United States. So it's no surprise that it's so bad now, because it's been allowed. It's been allowed up until this point.
Being affected are the little children, and they're innocent. They don't know different.
Exactly.
They are the ones that are being mortally destroyed, and just, it's like it's an everyday occurrence and nobody gives a rat's ass. And that's what pissed me off when I got involved in it. It's like, wait a minute, this has been going on in this location for 100 years, and now they're out in the middle of the street on a Saturday afternoon.
Right.
I mean, come on, these are 14 and 16-year-olds. And I said, well, I got to pick up the sword and shield. I care. And nothing's ever happened to my family, fortunately, or anybody I know at that time directly. But the point is, somebody's got to do something, because if nothing's done, then eventually it's going to come to my doorstep. And I don't want that to happen. So you got to do something. You got to take that cause for it. Latino, I mean, you live in the city, you see all kinds of things living in the city. You see the plight of the homeless encampments, which is a fostering ground for human trafficking. It's like the recruiting center. It's like the combine at the NFL. They jump in there like D1 college recruiters, recruiting people from homeless encampments and stuff. So because they give them some drugs or whatever, and they're looking for a very specific type of people, or they just snatch and grab. I mean, that happens in these homeless, and no one cares about the homeless. No one even knows they're the homeless, and no one looks for them. No one cares, and that's what happens there too. So I mean, this is a plan. It just didn't happen. It didn't happen. Okay. And so what do you do about that? How do you solve the homeless problem in Los Angeles, which would help solve this problem, which would help solve the family's problem for being safe in their neighborhood? I mean, what the hell do you do?
Well, the first thing I suggest everyone pray. That always starts to help. Okay. Pause. Number 2, get to know your neighbors, know who they are, know what they're about, get to know the children. And, in this day and time, it's kind of hard to utilize that as an avenue based on what's going on. And Jesse, I admire you, Lisa, and Mr. Sabo for being out there on the ground battling, seriously feet on the ground, doing something about it and getting results from your actions. But there's so much, like you said, out there. It is hard to pinpoint it unless the people come forward, confess it, so we can go in and pick them up.
I'll tell you this much. You can't get a goddamn thing done, excuse my language, unless you got a team of people that's willing to support behind you and around you and in front of you, because one person can make a difference in one person's life, but one person can't make a difference when you're faced with such evil intentions. Okay.
Well,
and these people are straight up evil upon evil.
One of the things that we're faced with, and you mentioned teamwork. I enjoy what Lisa said, how she came from that environment, looking to get others out of that environment. She introduced me to Will Savo. He, as a Marine, he's sworn to duty and allegiance to the country. I salute that. And by the way, if you're listening or later on in the show, you can see this. Thank you for your service, William, and happy Memorial Day. And to all the veterans out there who fight for our freedom, I believe it's a slap in their face to come home and find us in a world of hurt, pain, and poverty. They can't get housing. They can't get the right things to make them well. We are the richest nation on the planet, but that money is not going to help better humanity.
If money was a problem, we wouldn't have any problems, because we've thrown trillions of dollars at it, and that doesn't solve the issue. There was a Greek philosopher that said about the fall of the Macedonian Empire, which was basically Greece, and when the Romans conquered them and took them over, and over a period of several hundred years. And the Greek philosopher, he penned this, and he basically said, because Greece was a pure democracy, okay? America is a republic, not a democracy, but Greece was a pure democracy. And what he said was this, and I've always remembered this, is that America, and I'm going to use it in an American point of view. He said it from a Greek point of view for his country and his timeline. But basically what he said, and translated into the American understanding, America will not ever be conquered by an outside foe. It will never happen. We'll blow the friggin' planet up before that happens. America will never be conquered. There will never be foreign soldier boots anywhere on any soil attacking Americans. What will happen is America will implode upon itself and die from the inside out. And that, in my lifetime, is what I'm seeing happening. And that is a very serious problem, because if your countrymen and women don't care, you have no country.
You know, I want to add, since we were talking about, you know, it's all these trillions of dollars that we can spend elsewhere. Will Sabo's organization, Citizens of Bikers for a Brighter Future, and my organization, the entire organization, works on a volunteer basis. We don't have funding. We do local funding, you know, fundraisers like selling T-shirts and doing raffles for Harleys and things of that nature. But we don't have any local government funding or otherwise. If we did, we could do a lot better. We could do a lot more work. We could actually have some safe houses to house the people that we rescue. We have 14 states across the United States that we need to have safe houses for our rescues. We could be doing a lot more. We really could.
So how do people get involved in helping in that arena with you? Do you have a website? Do you have?
I do have a website.
Push, and an office phone number or something that they can actually get involved in that area?
Yes, I have a website. It is www.little-sisters.org. I also have a Facebook page, Little Sisters Foundation, on Facebook. We also have a GoFundMe set up. I don't actually have that link available at the moment, but I know that that if you do a search on GoFundMe for Little Sisters Foundation, you will find it. I also have, because I have T-shirts that I give away for donations. I also have arranged a Cash App donation. It is $ Little Sisters, Little Sisters Inc. Little Sisters Inc. 2022. Sorry. And we do have on the Facebook page and on the website, we do have our contact information, email address, our attorneys' information. We have Citizens of Bikers for a Brighter Future contact information there on our website and on Facebook.
Now, Alatino, you actually have a cryptocurrency going on to raise money.
Well, I wouldn't call it crypto because that is a poor definition of how it's done. However, I want to inject this one thing. We were talking about the homeless. Everybody should look at www.habitats4humans.com, because the horror stories that you see about our oceans being contaminated by plastics is a real life American horror story. During the pandemic, it's gone up 4 times more than normal. Fish, plankton, and the entire food chain are eating plastics. They're getting into you. You drink hot coffee out of the plastic coated cups, Starbucks, all of them. That, when it's heated, it melts. It gets into your system, causing clots in your vein. If it was a blood clot, it could be dissolved by medicine. How do you dissolve plastic in your bloodstream? Anyone have any clues? No. But if we clean up our oceans, the people that are homeless, they recycle. Take that recycled plastic, turn it into sustainable housing off the grid. Not only are the homeless protected, so are the homeless veterans, so are the safe houses for Lisa's organization, Will's organization, and any other organization that has to house that. The prison overcrowding myth, okay, that they don't have any place to go. Build the cities, build the communities in a safe, sustainable environment.
So how do people get involved in contributing funds towards your organization and what you're doing with fighting human trafficking and homeless and these issues of housing and stuff?
It's much like what we're doing now, but as a child, I admired Jerry Lewis. and his telethons. And I used to stay up on Labor Day weekend and watch him raise money by music, dancing, comedians, entertainers, chefs, everything to raise money online. We all live in line. We don't want to go out and see that. But I think it's really terrible to see that. And I don't want to impose it, but it needs to be brought to the forefront. And I've talked to some friends of mine who are specialized in horror films, and they're going to help me put together PSAs, public service announcement, on the real life horror that could hit you at any time. You know,
How do people get in touch with you? Give me a website and a phone number.
you go to Google search and go Project Tapestry Network. There's a chat session, there's an email session. You can set up your appointment. You can email us with any ideas. You want to volunteer, you want to donate, it'll take you to the website where you can do that. But getting into what I wanted to do with Project Tapestry is take corporate sponsorship and give these people what they're going to buy on food stamps normally, but we give them a job to clean up. They go out 9 to 5. They reorientate their life to a 9 to 5 work ethic where they can come home, study, and pass tests online in these housing communities and recycle them back into society as viable citizens. Reach out there to the people where they were and bring them to where you are now. And I think that would be the best way in order to handle that situation.
I'd like to thank you guys for checking in today, and we're out of time. It's a Worthy Cause Wednesday, and I appreciate you, Lisa, checking in. Give that website once again, Lisa, please, so
Deb-
people can get involved with you.
Yes, www.little-sisters.org.
And Alatino, to give that the website where they can actually make a donation. I believe it's a PayPal or Google.
Yes, they can go straight to Google from the Google business site, and it'll switch them over to the website where they can make their donation.
Sounds great, guys. And Will, we're sad that you took off, but we appreciate you coming on the show, and thank you for your service. Let's keep up the good work. Hey, the Coalition Against Human Trafficking caught CAHT, wanted by the FBI, Michael James Pratt. We're looking for this guy, Michael James Pratt, wanted by the FBI. We need to put this guy down. We need to put him down hard. So we want you to get involved with that. And when you post up and watch the show, you're going to see some pictures of Michael James Pratt. The show brought to you by Your Home Sold Guaranteed, where we promise to sell your house and get your price. If we don't, I'll pay the difference. And where every sale that we close, every loan that we close, we will donate $500 to $10,000 to the Coalition Against Human Trafficking Project Tapestry in your honor for participating. And the reason why we will do that, because the more money we raise, the more these fine organizations like Lisa and Will and Alatino, they can prosper and get and do the job that they want to accomplish. Because like I said earlier, somebody's got to do it. Give me a sword and give me a shield, oh God. Let me face the enemy in front, and let me have the power to strike the enemy with one blow. And let me have the opportunity to pray for their soul, that they go to hell and never come back. Okay, that's how I feel, Jesse T. Hey, I can't help but being me. What can I tell you? Hey, Your Home Sold Guaranteed. We're out of here. You have a good one and take care. Go to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Blogger, Pinterest, read it, Instagram, and find the show. It's there. Like and share. Hit the notification button. If you like it, every Wednesday, get involved. We're putting together the volunteer team, and we want you to participate, bringing awareness to this very, 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 very bad issue that's going on in America today.
Memorial Day to the true heroes that gave their lives to protect us from this. Amen.
Amen.
Absolutely. Hey, I'll see you guys. Thanks all for joining. Hey, Worthy Cause Wednesday and the fight against human trafficking. See ya.
All right.
Hold on.
Are we still online?